Hi, I mentioned in many videos that the feeding of the infant should be commensurate with their growth pattern, and in this video I'll quickly explain how the parents can monitor the growth of their baby. So when a baby is born, obviously the hospital staff will guide you on the birth weight, the height of the baby, the head circumference, and they may also explain to you which centile or percentile on the growth chart baby falls. So you have growth charts for boys, you have growth charts for girls, and most units follow either the World Health Organization chart, which is designed for breastfeeding babies, and it was made up to 4 years of age, and up to 2 years and then extrapolated to 4 years. There are other charts, depending on where you live, you may have custom made charts for your population. Obviously, you also have growth apps which you can download free on your phone and plot the growth with each clinic visit. So what do we mean by percentile? A percentile is it's based on a distribution of all a cohort, a group. So if your baby is a boy born at 38 weeks or 39 weeks, it plots all the babies born at that, and according to where the baby falls in that group, that's a centile. So if you say 50th percentile, that's the average. If you say 75th percentile, that means 75% of the babies are below that weight and 25% are above that weight. And if you say 90th percentile, then 90% of the babies are smaller than your baby and 10% are bigger. So when we call small for gestational age babies, they are born less than the 10th percentile. This is a definition, and this is according to the gestation at which the baby is born. So a baby can be growth restricted or not growth restricted with SGA if you have familial factors. Again, there is a small video I made on IUGR, you can refer that as well. So the reason you need to know about familial pattern and growth restriction is because if a baby is on the 10th centile at birth, some of them continue to grow on the 10th centile as they grow older. Even if you have other siblings who are growing on the average, it doesn't mean this particular baby will grow, because you have genetic factors which control growth as well, and the weight of the baby at birth reflects the environment within the womb. If the baby was nourished well, or if there is maternal hypertension or any other factors which affect the growth, baby may tend to be small. If there is a pregnancy related factor, the nutrient supply was a factor, most of these babies catch up. But if there is a genetic factor like familial small baby, or if the baby has a genetic problem like a chromosomal problem, then the baby is likely to stay small. So we can say that roughly 1/3 of the babies catch up early, and these are usually the babies where the nutrient supply has been reduced due to maternal reasons in the womb. Once delivered and once the nutrient supply catches, these babies catch up. About 1/3 of the babies don't show any catch up and they continue to grow as they are, and the remaining third catch up late by 1 to 2 years. So we cannot predict at birth which babies are going to catch up, and babies who are meant to catch up late or do not catch up, if we tend to force feed them, there is something called pre-programming and the impact on future health. This is like Barker's hypothesis, and if you overfeed these babies, they may start accumulating more within their systems. There's a higher risk of obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes syndrome X, and it's not good for their longevity or health later on. So that's the reason that we shouldn't dictate how much the baby takes, and if a baby is breastfeeding, make sure you're not overfeeding because you're very anxious about interpreting the cues. Try to space the feeds after the baby establishes the initial couple of weeks feeding. If you're on formula feeds, make sure you regulate to your baby's own intake, not what is written on the tin, and keep it on the lower side, as the baby leanness is better than obesity risk in the future. The growth charts, obviously the weight is monitored at every clinic visit, which can be with the vaccination after the first 2 months. In the beginning you may monitor more closely. You can refer my video on how to check the weight at home. The height and the head circumference don't need to be checked that often. It can be done with the vaccine visits, and after 1 year we don't check the head circumference as often unless there are concerns. The length is more difficult to measure, so I wouldn't suggest you measure it at home. During the clinic visits you can check where it plots. And the growth app is a good option. If you don't have access to the app, you can download the growth charts suitable for your population, or your pediatrician can give you a booklet which includes a growth chart, and you can monitor. You need to understand which percentile your baby is on and compare the growth for that baby. Don't compare with the siblings, don't compare with your neighbors, don't compare with your sister's baby, and so on. So no comparison, just start with the starting point for the baby and see how the baby goes. There are some bigger babies like the infant of diabetic mother where the baby comes large for date, and in these cases there may be a downward slant. Again, it may take the family pattern after the first 2-3 months. If the baby does drop the weight on the centile after birth, especially in a bigger baby, there is no need to be alarmed. If the baby does drop centiles, you see where the weight gain goes from there, and if it is sustained at that reduced level, it's appropriate. So leave it to nature, trust your instincts, don't overinterpret cues, allow your baby to regulate. Overfeeding is never good for the baby as well. I hope this message helps. Do share.